everyone's attention for a moment. You'll have plenty of time to chat. We're going to start off the evening by actually making the dough. So we will talk a little bit more about why we're here and everything shortly. But right now I'd like to introduce you to Adira. Adira is, thank you very much for coming, Adira. She is an expert challah baker, and she's done this, she's done challah bakes for many other people, so we're very privileged to have you here today. So thank you very much, and over to you.
Okay, so I just had my cataracts done, so even though the speech looks long, it just had me printed very big. So I apologize. My husband printed it, and it was like 3 pages. I was like, that's okay. And then all of a sudden it was 11 pages, and I was like, okay, maybe not. Okay, so first of all, I want to welcome everyone here to the special AJFN holiday. I really can't start tonight without taking a few moments for all of us as women gather together to pray for our soldiers and the hostages and for the safety and security of our fellow Jews in Eretz Israel during this really turbulent time of war. It's so apropos that we are gathered to do this mitzvah together tonight because of the power of Jewish women together, united, it just takes it to a new level. So I'm just going to say a prayer for our soldiers, a prayer for the hostages, and please bear with me for that. Mishaverach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov, hu yivarech et chayalei tzva Hagana Yisrael, omdim ad mishmar artzenu v'harei Eloheinu migvul halevanon, ad midbar Mitzrayim u'min hayam hagadol ad lavo ha'arava v'yavasha v'avir v'yam. Yitein Adonai et oivenu hakamim aleinu negefim lifnehem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishmor v'yitzil et chayaleinu mikol tzara v'chutza ומכל נגע ומחלה וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם. ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם ויעטר מכתר ישועה ועטרת ניצחון ויקום בהם הכתוב כי אדוני הולכם ההולך עמכם להילחם עם אויביכם אשר אתכם ונאמר אמן. Now one for the hostages. משברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב ויוסף משה ואהרון דוד ושלמה הוא יברך וישמור ויצור את נדרי צבא הגנה לישראל את השבויים בתוך שער אחינו בישראל הנטועים צרה ובשיביה בעבור שיקל מתפלל בעבורם הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחמים עליהם ויוצא מחושך בצל מוות ומסורותיהם ינתק ומצוותיהם יושיע ויושיבה מהרה לחיק משפחותיהם יודו אדוני לחסדו לבנותיו ולבני אדם ויקום בהם מקרא שכתוב ופודה אבני ישובו ובת ציון ורינה ושמחה לעולם אמר שהם ששון ושמחה ויזכו ונשאו ויגון ואנחה ונאמר אמן. אחינו כל בית ישראל הנטועים בצרה שיביה העומדים בין הים ובין ביבשה, המקום ירחם עליהם ויוציאים מצרה ורחבה ומעפר לאורה ומשוב עד הגאולה השתה בגאולה זמן קראי ויאמרו אמן. Let's bring them home. Okay. So, I wrote everything down because I didn't want to go off the mark, and because I do a lot of challah bakes, I do challah bakes with women who are struggling with fertility. I do challah bakes with young brides and people who are going through their own challenges, and I often do it one-on-one, and so I felt that if I was doing a bigger one, which I've done a few of them, I felt that I should do it with notes because I don't want to go off. Everyone's unique, so each one is special, and I always rewrite it or think about what I want to say before. So I really feel privileged tonight that I was asked to facilitate tonight's challah bake. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Adira Werdiger. I was born in the USA, and I've lived here for 35 years. I, Baruch Hashem, am married to David. We have 5 wonderful children. 3 are married, and we have 5 beautiful grandchildren. Kanai Nahara. Since I moved here, I've been really blessed to be involved in many communal organizations, and one that is especially close to my heart, which is Shifra, which is halachically supervised IVF. We have with us Mrs. Shalom Greenbaum. Not yet, but yes. And Mrs. Sarah Yotkovich, who are both wonderful mashgichot. Shulamit is a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. She's a teacher at Beth Rivka Ladies College, and tonight she is here to represent Shifra. And she will share more about the important and fulfilling work that they do. And I will explain that I was also a mashgicha for many, many years. I've actually been involved with Shifra since its inception. I had gotten married, I had an ectopic pregnancy, and 1.5 years later I was blessed with a son, and then 2.5 years later I was blessed with another son. We knew we wanted more children, and when it didn't happen, I was told I had secondary infertility. And right now I'm actually going to veer off a little bit and just tell you something interesting, because I think this is something, I know that we're here for people who are wanting to have children, people who have suffered loss, and people who have a lot of hope for the future of what their families are going to look like. And that comes in all different shapes and forms. But I want to make a point of saying that the worst way to begin any sentence after anyone that's going through something, there's 2 words you don't say, which is at least. At least you had 2 children. At least you know you can carry a child. At least you have a home to go home to with children in it. And those 5.5 years until our daughter arrived was a really difficult time for me. I was surrounded with friends with babies. Everywhere you looked, you seemed to notice prams and baby clothes and all the things that you want that you don't necessarily have in front of you. And nowadays, thank God, there are so many services and organizations that support women and couples, and we shouldn't take it for granted for 1 minute at how far we've come with being open, honest, and real about people's struggles. I think that also joins with the mental health of it all, but it's really important. And at that time, I decided that I wanted to do something that might help women in the same situation. And as it was by fluke, I went to thank my doctor who would help me. And I saw Rabbi Gideon Fox in the hallway. He's still involved in Hashgacha, by the way, in South Africa. This led to a discussion, which continued with Bev Rockman, who has made Aliyah, but she was really the instigator of Shifra in wanting to bring it to Australia in the right way, with the right rabbi, with the right environment, being very open and very, still wanted halachic guidelines, but he was a wonderful rabbi at the time to really embrace, followed by Rabbi Lishi Greenbaum, and now David Gutnick is running it. And we've always been careful with choosing our rabbis, that they are really inclusive and wonderful rabbis, but very, very strong about their halachic guidelines. And I think that's a really important thing to mention because they're all very warm and wonderful. So anyways, at the time I was, when we were setting it up, we wanted to have the right transparency and the right governance, and Professor Louis Waller, the late Professor Louis Waller, was very involved in our ethic committee at the time, and that was really incredible. I'll leave all the details about what Shifra does and how they do it and what they do to Shulamit in a few minutes, but that was sort of one other thing. And there's a little story I want to tell you, which is my favorite Shifra story. As we go into the lab with people, and we often have this time where you want to pray for people, and you have a lot of time in between portions of the IVF process. And I was training someone, and she's on the phone to me, and she says, well, what do I do now? They put me in the hallway, what do I do? And I said, well, usually I just say Tillim, or I pray, or I do something. She says, the only thing I know how to do is Tefillat Adira, which is prayer for travelers. I said, well, that'll work. And anyways, I can say that particular couple did have a baby, and I'm sure it was her Tefillah. Anyways, now the reason that we're here, okay, let's talk about Challah and the beauty of this special mitzvah. So where did the tradition actually begin? It's over 4,000 years old. And I want to tell you tonight about the power of Challah and how the practice came to be, why we do it, and the importance of this mysterious mitzvah. In Hebrew, it's called Hafrashat Challah, the separation of Challah. But what is actually the deeper meaning of that? There are 613 mitzvot in the Torah, but there are only 3 mitzvot that are especially for women. Many of the mitzvot that men do require a quorum. For example, 10 men are needed for a minyan, and various other activities pertaining to prayer. But according to the Torah, women are on a higher spiritual plane, and therefore they don't need a group of others surrounding them to elevate their communication with God. We are gifted with the direct line without the need to incorporate others. Have an issue? We'll chat. And it's interesting to note that according to Jewish law, when someone is unwell, you identify them in prayer with their Hebrew name, and the bat or ben, the son or daughter of, the mother's Hebrew name. But when they actually pass away, you say their father's name, and the bat or ben becomes their father's. Why? Because women are naturally empathetic, compassionate, and they feel for others. It is much easier for God to hear a woman's prayer and accept them with warmth and mercy. So what are the 3 big women's mitzvot? So there's mikvah. Shalom is also an expert in teaching that. She moonlights in the space. There's Hadlakat Nerot, which is the candle lighting on Friday night and Jewish holidays. And yes, drum roll please, the mitzvah of Challah. These three mitzvot each have their own bracha and are the cornerstones of creating a Jewish home. And when a Jewish girl grows up and marries, she is able to actually do all 3 mitzvot. In the times of the temple in Jerusalem, the career of the priest, the Kohanim, was to work there in the services to God, bringing sacrifices and other offerings on behalf of individuals and the community. In consideration for this work, their financial needs were provided for through a series of 24 gifts from everyone else who worked the land or were in business. For example, the Kohanim received a portion of every sacrifice, a percentage of all produce, and a number of gifts that were the first and the best. The firstborn animal, the first fruits, the first harvest, even the firstborn sons. The mitzvah of Pidyon Haben, redeeming the firstborn from a Kohen, continues until this day with 5 silver coins. It's a really nice, it's actually the best mitzvah when you have a baby, because when you have a Pidyon Haben, I mean, I was a bat Kohen, so I couldn't have one, but my grandson had one, and it's like not harmful, it feels good, everyone's a month afterwards, it's okay, you know? It's better than the bris. Anyways, so challah, a portion of baked goods, is one of these gifts that were brought to the Kohen. After the temple was destroyed, we no longer give these gifts to a Kohen, but we still take a portion of the dough of challah and we burn it. This is something that we'll do tonight. And I'm actually going to mention marriage here because it's usually married women who do this mitzvah regularly, but not anymore. Recently, and in the last, I'd say 50 years, it's become very trendy. It's taken on a cool, really mystical kind of spiritual vibe, which I think is fabulous. And so many people have embraced it as a place of comfort, and I think that's really, really a nice thing to see. And it's really across the spectrum. It doesn't matter what level you are in any religious observance. I think it's just a mitzvah that unites women, and I think that's really powerful. The Talmud states that a Jewish marriage has 3 partners: the man, the woman, and God. We were all brought into this world with a purpose. We were brought into the world to be a dugma chaya, a living example, to do tikkun olam, to repair this somewhat, or not even somewhat, very damaged world that we are living in, and we want to leave it in better shape than the way that we found it. Our job is to help others and do good and be kind. Our job as a people and individually is to be a light unto the other nations, even more so right now than any other time. When we do a good deed, any mitzvah, we elevate the mundane and make it spiritual. When we do these mitzvah in the context of a marriage, we include God as a third partner in our marriage, and he reciprocates by giving the family the added strength to accomplish great success. So 1 + 1 is actually equals 3 and much, much more. When a Jewish girl marries, she's known as the Akeret Habayit. It's the most important role and both very challenging and the greatest gift, because it's up to the Jewish woman to establish the foundations of her home. She sets the tone of the way it runs, the pace, the values, and yes, even in today's liberal world with all the speeches about equality and equal rights, it's usually the wife and mother that provide the emotional stability and support for those around her, even through sisterhood, friendship. So we're all created b'tselem Elokim, with a chelek Elokai mimal mamash. That means that we are created in the image of God, and our souls have a piece of God in us. When we say this blessing and we perform these 3 mitzvot, when you go to mikvah to purify yourself, when you light your candles on Friday evening for Shabbat, and when you bake challah, this is your direct line to God. It's to the infinite, and this allows the infinite to manifest within us. So to me, challah is a beautiful metaphor for the Jewish home. The recipe and ingredients to create a Jewish home is literally right here in front of us. Women for generations before us have used these ingredients, and it has been passed down, and please God, to you, you will pass it down to your children, and the legacy and connection to the past and the future of Jewish sisterhood will continue. So, what are the ingredients? We have flour, right? What does that represent? Sustenance. We have oil. What does that represent? Wealth. We have sugar. What does that represent? Sweetness and goodness. We have eggs. Why we're here, fertility and reproduction. And we have salt, which equals strength. And when you mix it and you braid it and you take the time to create it, it's all you need, and no pun intended, in your life. I think challah is love. Challah is kindness. When a Jewish girl is blessed, it's like Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. You should be like our matriarch Sarah, who didn't have children for 90 years. But it's said that she baked challah every week. So what did she do with all that challah for the first, say, 80 years? I don't know, probably didn't do it when she was 3, but you never know in Torah times. But it was her and Abraham. It was just 2 people. But it really wasn't, because Sarah was married to Abraham, and our patriarch. And everyone knows the story of Abraham. He was known to have a tent that was open on all 4 sides, which is why the chuppah carries that same meaning. And it always welcomed visitors and travelers. So their lives were all about Challah, kindness and hospitality to others. To continue Sarah's tradition of Challah, we also give tzedakah. Many women around the globe give tzedakah before they bake each week. It's a tradition many women take. They put next to their mix masters or next to their bowls, they put a tzedakah box. And it's a time to remember other people, because whatever struggles you go through, you have to have the gratitude before you have the sadness. So you always think of people and you thank God for that. And I really believe that Challah connects us to our heritage. Now, I want to explain about my connection with Challah now. For me, this mitzvah holds a very special place. My older sister, I still cry when I talk about her, was diagnosed at 33 with breast cancer. And she lived for 17 years with it. She passed away nearly 5 years ago. And at the time when she was diagnosed, she was single, she was older than me, and I wanted to do something, but I was really across the world, so my trips were short and sweet, but that's all they were. And I wanted to do a different mitzvah, and I decided to take something on that I would do in her honor. So I thought, what am I going to do? So after several failed attempts at night shiurim, because I would fall asleep and I wouldn't go and all my kids needed me and I was tired, I thought, nah, not going to fly. So I tried a few other little things and nothing sort of resonated. And I decided to take on the mitzvah of Challah. It didn't always work when I started. It lacked the right texture. The temperature was wrong. I turned on the fireplace and leave it to rise, and I would think, no, it's too hot, move it into the kitchen. And I had many failed attempts, but I kept at it, and it became my thing. And I took upon myself to bake every single Friday morning. I'd get up at 4 in the morning, and I would have my dough ready for 7, so I could braid it, and then I could give it out to people. I've continued that ever since. I've only missed several weeks when I travel abroad. It also became a time for me to request the blessings and hopes that I wanted for myself, my husband, my children. And now I include, next to my Challah, I include my list of grandchildren. And I have a list of women that I pray for, and I say Tehillim for, and I put that next to it as well. So in the morning, when I make my Challah, I read off a list of names aloud, because I figure that if God hears me loud enough, maybe he'll do something about it. And the prayers, they're not just hopes and dreams, but they're for the future. They're for the future of Israel. I have a list of soldiers that are sick, and I think everyone here can take away their own people, and everyone's going to have that opportunity when they take the bracha to think of people that mean something to you, or that you're thinking of that are, it's bigger than all of us, and we don't know where that blessings are going to come from, but we know that it comes from God. So however that manifests itself, whether it's through your Challah, whether it's for you thinking about the person next to you to have a baby, or the person next to you that their mother should be well, or that their child should not suffer whatever they're going through, or each bracha that every soldier that goes into Gaza is a hero. We were just in Israel, and I'll just go off for a second from this. We were talking to a guy, we were down Sderot, and he said he was about to go back, and I start crying, and I give him a hug, and I say, be safe, we're praying for you. And he says to me, I'm not so important. I said, you're a hero. He said, I'm not so important. I said, what do you mean? He goes, all I do is change the tires on the trucks. And I said, okay, you don't change those tires, and they get a flat, and someone wants to blow you. I said, everyone is a cog in the wheel. All of us sitting in this room tonight are cogs in the wheel of praying for each other, and for Eretz Yisrael, and for God, and for to God of all the things that we want. And without all the combined prayers, your prayer will go up to God. But when you do it with other people in mind as well, I believe that it feels first of all, it makes you feel good because you're doing something important, but it also elevates the mitzvah to another level. Anyways, when I bake challah, it gives me perspective and opportunity for gratitude. It gives me an opportunity for awesome clarity to whatever's affecting me. And it's also take a moment to meditate. And it's all very trendy to say yoga, meditation, but spending time just with that challah dough, with your hands, it's organic, it feels good, it feels connected. And I actually truly feel connected to Hashem when I bake challah, and I feel like I have direct and open line of communication with Him. And I really hope that tonight's gathering starts your journey to feel the connection, and that you find solace in your hearts and comfort, and menuchat hanefesh, which is comfort of the soul, which I think every woman needs in different times in their lives in different places. And so really the blessings that I wish for you as we embark on this mitzvah together tonight is to bring spirituality into your life. Sprinkle a little bit of that Judaism in all that you do. When things are going well, it can be really hard to remember that Hashem is with us. But if you do, then Hashem will surely be there with you when you're in your challenging times. I know that many of you have come tonight because of your personal struggles with your own fertility, or those that are struggling around you, or struggling with loss, or just ones that you love have other challenges or going through their own challenges. But there is nothing, and there's nothing tonight that I'm going to say, well, at least from me, okay? You're not going to hear that. Tonight is all about virtual hugs, sisterhood, love, compassion, empathy, and feeling supported in this room. Remember that connecting to your Jewishness, your womanhood, lighting candles, baking challah, helps maintain that connection to something far bigger than all of us. We can get started.